All right. So we are live and we're going to be talking about all things pay per click, PPC on Amazon and beyond. And so I'm super excited to be joined here by Bernard Nader from PPC Maestro to answer all those questions that folks have about pay per click advertising, because Amazon is not a set it and forget it. Just slap a listing up there with your logo on a barbecue glove and call it a day. There's a lot you got to do, a lot of levers to pull with PPC, but we're going to answer your questions so you can have better results and hopefully spend less money to make more sales. And so that's the goal, right, Bernard?
Absolutely, Kevin. Thanks for having me on again.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So, Bernard, you are a two-time speaker at our PPC Mastery Summit. In fact, you are one of the OG speakers from 2020.
Yeah.
You spoke at the PPC Summit. So thank you for doing that. And now we've hosted, I have trouble counting. We're this year we will be over 20 summits that we've
Wow.
brought on, literally hundreds of folks' favorite speakers from around the Amazon and e-commerce space. And so we'll get to a little bit of where you're at. Or a little bit about you, I should say, Bernard, here in a moment. But for folks listening, if you don't mind, just make sure you can hear us, because I literally had like this message a minute ago that said your browser isn't connected to your microphone. So just one of my little, hey, is anyone out there type of thing. If you don't mind either commenting or clicking the little thumbs up icon to let us know that you can hear us. Doesn't matter. We've got folks watching us on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitch, all the above. So if you don't mind just letting us know that you can hear us, that's definitely helpful. So while folks are starting to type that in, Bernard, give us a quick little rundown. Who are you and how'd you get into this PPC game?
It's a good question. I get asked that quite a few times. So my journey started back in 2015 or so. So
okay.
I discovered FBA back then. They were selling like a brand on some website I found. So I was like, whoa, is that such a thing as you could do this as a business? So I started basically as a private label seller. So I kept on selling until COVID hit, pretty much. And at the same time, as an engineer by trade, I had problems with PPC back then. So I'm like, if that stuff is hard for me, imagine other folks out there, right?
Oh, yeah, because you're probably someone who's very attuned at looking at numbers and data.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm an electrical engineer and computer scientist. So I worked in avionics for 18 years. I did a lot of programming, a lot of, I did create these SOPs. I did instrumentation, automation. I did a lot of technical stuff with data-driven stuff, right?
Deep in the weeds, math stuff.
Right. So that's why back then I was like, wow, this could be something here. So I started helping my friends, a few friends that I had around Miami, and they're like, yeah, for sure, I would need help with this. So there was a meetup. There still is a meetup. I don't know if you know Carlos Alvarez, who is.
Oh, yeah. Wizards of
Carlos, of course you know
Carlos is a good guy.
Right.
He's watching. Hi, Carlos.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I don't know if he is. I said if he is.
If he is, yeah, that's the man right there.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I started going to his meetups, right? So I met a person there, and then he's like, "Oh, yeah, I found this great product, but I have problems with PPC launching it. I don't have a following. I don't have any email list or anything like that. So I would need help with PPC. So that's how I started. And then I think the following year, the year before, I went to the one you were hosting with Scott Boker. Remember that? The live event he had in Texas.
Oh, yeah. Brand Accelerator Live.
Right. Yeah. So there is where I was it 2019 or?
It was 2019, yes.
Right, there you go. So that was I found my first client there, actually, 2019.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, for PPC management, right? I was doing it on my own, helping friends for free, kind of, right? So I started there. And then from there on, COVID hit, and then, my supply chain got messed up. So I'm like, you know what? This PPC thing, I really like it more. So let me dedicate more time to it. And then, ever since I've been, there's always like an itch, to go back to selling, I might in the future, but for now, I enjoy PPC a lot.
Okay,
So I'm
got
not
it. So
waiting
right
for
now
him.
you're focusing on PPC. You are making it happen for clients.
Yes.
So the point is, you've seen a lot of accounts and kind of what works and what doesn't over the last. If my math serves me correctly, if your first paid client was at Brand Accelerator Live, that was about 5 years ago.
Yes.
So you've been doing this for about 5 years. So you must have a
Yes.
lot of experience. So the good
Yes.
news is, folks watching this, you're in for a treat. You got someone who is deep in the trenches on this stuff, understands the numbers, and he's in tropical Miami. So he'll be answering your questions. Now, one thing to note is we've already got a lot of questions queued up, folks. And so we get to the end and everybody starts wanting to get their question in at the very end. So I go somewhat in order. I reserve the right to go out of order if need be, because it just, maybe that question flows better or whatever the case is. But the sooner you get your question in, the sooner, or the more likely, I should say, that you're going to be able to get an answer to your question. So make sure you get your questions in now, because as we get towards the end, more people start joining the stream, more people start asking questions, we start running out of time and everybody wants to ask their questions. So get your question in now. So you ready for some questions there, Bernard?
Of course. I love PPC stuff. Go for
All right,
it.
let's do this. So Nicole says, I have a question which bothered me so much. I'm optimizing PPC campaigns. For one keyword, it looks good in search term report. ROAS is 3.15, so about a 33% ACOS, but have zero sales in search query. What is the reason?
Yeah, I think we're going to need more details on that, Nicole. I mean, how long have you been running PPC? Is it a new launch, or has it been running for a while? Or give us a little bit
The
more
same
background.
attribution window.
Yeah, we got to look at we need a little bit more details here. But I would say, to me, if it's been running for a while and you don't get any sales, it's a relevancy problem, right? Maybe it's not relevant. The keyword is not. Hopefully, you did
Well,
the.
just to kind of clarify this, Bernard, if I'm understanding the question correctly, it's that she has sales according to the search term report, but search query is showing zero sales.
Oh, okay.
So it could be that maybe this was potentially a broad match keyword, where maybe the search term is something else, and that's what's registering in search query performance. So I would say, is it the keyword that's getting the sale, or is it one of the search terms? Like, instead of, phone case, black phone case for Samsung S23 Ultra, or whatever the case is.
Yeah, that's.
You think that could make a difference?
Yeah, that's a good point. The match type matters a lot for sure. If it's broad, then yeah, there could be way many more keywords in there than just one, right?
Right. So, okay, cool. All right. So next up, Christian asks, do phrase type campaigns contain exact type campaigns? Are these redundant? And on the other hand, it's a multifaceted question here. Thank you for the question, Christian. And on the other hand, with a limited budget and zero reviews, what time do you recommend steadily work on PPC campaigns? I'll let you unpack that however you'd like, Bernard.
All right, let's start with the first one. Phrase campaigns, do they contain exact, I'm assuming, keywords, right? So exact phrase do contain exact match types, keywords, right? So if you have, let's say, iPhone 14, for example, right? You would have in phrase, and that would, the exact one would be, there's black, all that stuff would come into I guess play, right? So yes, the first one is true, yes, but not campaigns, but keywords, right?
Right. So the exact version of that keyword would be one of the search terms, but it wouldn't necessarily be like, it's not going to automatically create a new exact keyword for you. You could put it in the campaign, but yeah.
Right. Now,
are these redundant?
Well, I like to test all three match types myself personally, right? So if something works, you got to test it. The reason being, you get different bids, so they will show up in different placements all across the platform, right? So you want to make sure you don't pick one over the other. You want to test all three. Well, we're talking about manual stuff, right? Like broad match and phrase. You want to test all three and make sure you cover all your bases doing that. So I
Okay.
would say no, they're not. They could be, but you gotta do some analysis here. You gotta make sure that you deduplicate as well, right? You don't want to repeat the same one at the same match type level in many campaigns, right? You're gonna make sure you limit that, right? So
Okay.
yeah, so they could be redundant. So the answer is like they could be. You gotta
It could be
analyze the
redundant.
data. Yeah,
Okay.
you gotta analyze it
So
and
got it. So with the question about a limited budget and 0 reviews, should they run PPC? Should they not run PPC?
is it for, I guess, a launch? Then yeah, we launch with PPC all the time with 0 reviews. So limited budget, that's yeah, if it is not a competitive market, you could get away with that. But if it is, you might run into trouble with ranking, right? So it requires a budget, right? Depending on the competition you're facing, for sure, right? So limited budget is fine. We all have budgets, right?
Sure.
But is it enough to compete? That's what you got to ask yourself.
Right. And, I don't know if you see this, but, could it be maybe that, if you're going after maybe phone case is too broad of a keyword for you to be going after, that you should be going after more long tail keywords at launch or something like that, something that's more relevant, because the problem with Amazon is it really is a chicken and egg problem. Like, in order to get reviews, you got to get sales. To get sales, you don't necessarily have to have reviews, but they definitely help you get more conversions. And so it's part of that flywheel effect.
Exactly. That's why you got to be very, very good at keyword research. If it's competitive, you got to find those keywords that are not too competitive, so you could enter the market that way. And then you could broad, right? You got to go specific, enter, and then go broad from there.
Okay. So your suggestion is laser focus, go specific with exact match, and then broaden it out as the keywords present themselves as.
I don't know, well, the phrase, the riches or the niches applies for PPC, right? That applies for everything, right? If it's too big of a market, you're probably not going to be able to rank for the top keywords for sure. So you got to go long tail, try ranking for those. And then once you gain some traction, then go for the broader stuff, right? So that would be my advice.
Got it. All right. So Karan asks, hi guys, I'm trying to manage a potential client's PPC. They have Amazon seller UK account. I'm in Canada. How do I get access? Amazon requires identity document submits, which I rather not give. So I can take this one if you want.
Sure, go for it.
So that's just part of the know your customer laws in the UK. I don't know a way around this one. So if you're hoping to add, even as a sub user on their account, where they give you user permissions, and you just log in, you still have to give, whether it's, your, whatever IDs you have, what's the word I'm looking for? Your passport or whatnot. In my experience, you can have your passport associated to multiple logins, especially if there's just sub users. That should be fine, because you could have been an employee for one company and you go work for another company and have access to different accounts. So they're fine with that. But I don't know a way around the identity document submission in Europe. It's just the law there. It seems kind of weird that you'd have to provide all of that documentation on the front end, but you do. And so I guess you could create the login there, because mechanically, if you're the person granting access and that login doesn't already have that information on file, you have to be the one to create it. So like if Bernard, if you were creating a login for me to your account in Amazon UK, it would prompt you to even finish the process. You'd have to put in my passport information. So maybe Karan doesn't want to do that. So maybe just set up the login information on your own and then ask them, invite this email address. All right. If they simply give login, won't Amazon geo-ban my attempts to log in? Do not, under any circumstances, log in under their login. I would highly recommend against that. Definitely log in as a user. All right. Sammy Ahmed asks, can I rank my products in Amazon using external traffic? I'll let Bernard take this one.
Yes, you can, but is it a viable strategy, right?
Mm.
If the traffic comes, yeah, external traffic, Amazon would love that for sure.
Mhm.
But can you sustain it for a longer period of time, right? You might get like a spur of traffic that lifts
Mhm.
your ranking for a while, but you got to keep pushing for external stuff.
Mm.
So my advice would be a mix of both is awesome if you could do both. Yeah. But yeah, that's definitely possible for sure. A lot of brands do it nowadays, especially highly competitive niches, right? If it's
Mhm.
like supplements and all that stuff, yeah, they drive external traffic for sure. Influencers and yeah, that's. But then again, like I said, it's kind of is the orange worth the squeeze, right? Is it gonna be profitable doing that? Do it this way. If you cannot sustain it, you're just gonna lose out ranking eventually if you can't sustain it for a long period of time.
Yeah. So that's a good point. Are you just juicing yourself for the short term, or are you getting yourself ranked high enough soon enough? Okay. All right. So Karan asks, apart from this, meaning the question about the identity documentation, how can we effectively manage PPC bids for campaigns that have bid rules on them? I manage bids with bulk sheets. So if there is rules, how do we do it in bulk at scale? That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, it's a
Are
good
you able to
question.
use bulk rules?
I guess you could. So when you say bid rules, is that at the campaign level? Like you would go in there. You know, I I've conducted several tests on that, and I don't see a good, I guess, a steady performance with that bid. If it's like campaign level stuff you're talking about, right? I would definitely turn them off and do that stuff with bulk if you can, for sure. That way you have better control because you don't know if it's Amazon, the AI does what it does, right? So you don't know what it does. But if you have like a system in place where you know what type of bids,
Mm.
what increases you want to do, then I would definitely do it that way. Because I've seen like some of them perform really well at the beginning and then it tanks after like a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks. So I would keep an eye on those and then just turn them off and do your own thing using bulk for sure.
Yeah, I've always been more of a fan of bulk sheets. You use bulk sheets with your clients?
Oh, for sure. Oh yeah, we use like a combination of yeah, it's three. You got to use all three. You got to use the API. You got to use the bulk sheets, and you got to have
Mhm.
some manual stuff as well. There's no way around that. It's a combination of things, right?
Got it. All right. So Sammy Ahmed asks, if so, oh, this is about external traffic. What external link should I give to land on my Amazon product?
Ooh, that would be a question to ask. I mean, you are you managing something? If he's managing something for the brand, they should be responsible for that. I won't. If you're managing PPC for them, then I won't get involved with this. It's the brand's decision. But they do have attribution links you can create on the platform.
Well, that's a good point. You definitely use an attribution link, so you get the 10%
Yeah.
bonus for if someone buys through that link.
Yes, you would be able to actually to understand where the traffic is coming from and the sales as
Yes.
well. So
Avoid any of the, if you listen to podcasts from like 3 years ago or whatever, when people were talking about like
yeah.
two-step URLs where it like automatically goes into the whatchamacallit, the add to cart, or ones where they would try to make it look like someone had searched for a particular keyword and then they bought. Avoid all of that. All of that could get you banned. So you don't want to play around with that. So I would just use the attribution link and call it a day.
Yeah.
I'm going to launch a product in Australia where nobody using PPC and they have less than 300 reviews. So much budget should I allocate for PPC to launch initially? Well, I guess it depends.
Well, the first question I would say is that if nobody is using PPC, can you run PPC on it? I mean,
That's true.
You should.
Yeah, and it might just be because there's not a lot of impressions. Australia is very slow compared to other English-speaking marketplaces.
Yeah.
So it could just be that, it's just slow. And those products with 300 reviews, those reviews might be from, the UK and US and Canada.
Mm-hmm.
May not necessarily even be from Australia. So
yeah,
I would say just start with whatever you're comfortable with in Australia. And just keep in mind, $1 is like 1.4 ish. Just check the exchange rate in Australia. It's not, an Australian dollar is less than a US dollar. All right. So then Jaleel asks, when I run category price, refined, or expanded product targeting campaigns, I notice that most of my sales in my customer search terms come from other products. Am I cannibalizing myself? And should I create a new expanded product targeting campaign and negate all my products so I'm finding competitor products that I can steal sales from and not my products? So basically on, if you're doing an ASIN targeting campaign.
Let me see the first part there, Kevin. Again, let me
Sure.
see. So he's running a category for an expanded product targeting campaigns. Okay, so you're doing a product targeting campaign. You're getting customer search terms. Okay, yeah, I would definitely negate those search terms to make sure you get like on the product display page, right?
Well, I think it was more that they were having issues that they were finding when they look it up. They're the ASINs that are showing up are some of their own ASINs.
Oh, okay. No, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, the thing is, you got so branded terms. So you have like branded search terms showing up. Is that am I understanding correctly? So
No, if I'm understanding this, you look and you see what products are getting the sales. If you're looking at the bulk sheet, for example, ASIN equals whatever, and they see some of their ASINs, and they want to know, should they negate basically make it so they're not targeting their own ASINs on the expanded, because when you give expanded targeting to Amazon, they kind of give themselves leeway. So I think what they're saying here is they want to go to basically only target competitors and not their own.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I like segmenting everything. So I do like branded keywords, everything related to the brand, like separate campaigns. So I would definitely, make sure that
a branded ASIN. So create a branded ASIN. Right. So like you couldn't target its own ASIN because that'd be a circular reference. But if you have a bunch of other similar products, then maybe you put those in their own campaign. Yes. And then in this expanded product targeting campaign, you negate your own ASINs.
Yes, I would.
Did I understand that correctly?
It that way, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. I guess to give a little more context, they said they have 1, 2, and 3 packs in the supplement category. How hard is it to merge those products after you get 30 Vine reviews for each? It shouldn't be hard.
No, it shouldn't be that hard at all, right?
Yeah, just use a bulk sheet, or not a bulk sheet, the bulk template that you would use. Yeah. Well, I guess that would still be a bulk sheet. It's just not the advertising bulk sheet. It's if you go to add a product and you add products in bulk, you could just get your category listings report. You have to create a ASIN, or sorry, you basically are creating a SKU for your parent, and then you assign the parentage to that parent SKU for the 1, 2, and 3 packs. All right. So just a quick little plug. If you have any questions, feel free to put them into the chat. Now, the one thing I will say is, Bernard's got a lot of knowledge when it comes to PPC and diving deep into the numbers. He is definitely a spreadsheet guy. He's an engineer by trade. And so if you have questions, ask them now. The sooner you ask them, the more likely we will get to you, because generally we run out of time. And I'm going to close this down at the top of the hour at about 1:00 p.m. Eastern time. So with that, next question comes in from Abdullah, who says, what bids we need to with them in exact? I'm not 100% sure I understand this question, but I'll let you take this whatever direction you'd like, Bernard.
Sure. I think he wants to, I guess, to understand what's the difference in the bids between Exact and the other guys. Yeah, Exact typically is a higher CPC, so you got to bid higher. The conversion rate is also higher typically, right? So yeah, so I would say base it on whatever you see your CPC. If you're running them in phrase and broad already, you could do like a 20% increase on those and then see what you come up with.
Okay, got it. So you're saying just add 20% to whatever your CPC is for broader.
Right. So typically, if suggested bids are all over the place, sometimes they're super high, right? So if you do have data, I wouldn't go by suggested. I would probably calculate like last 30 days for that product line, specific SKU at the SKU level, and you could just bump it up like 20% or so, and then use that for Exact.
Got it. Okay. All right. So next up, we got a big one here. I got to look up just to see. So hey, I just visited your YouTube channel. Your channels are really nice, and oh, never mind. Someone's trying to sell us YouTube services.
Okay.
All right. Just folks know that if you're trying to sell services, selling live on someone's live stream is probably not going to get you where you're looking for. But anyway, nice try. Abdullah, I got to respect the hustle, but the effectiveness of that technique is probably not going to work. No. Build the relationship and then maybe ask to speak to that person. That would be the direction I would go. All right. So Abdullah says after 1 or 2 days, changes is good, or in a week in bid adjustments and optimization. So the age-old question, how often should you optimize your campaigns? Feel free to use the word it depends.
I mean, we could spend all day talking about this, but the way we've done it successfully is so you got to come with a system that works for your actual brand.
Okay.
And product, right? So I base this on the price point of your product. How much can you afford? So there's price point, there is margins. How much can you afford, right? So here I'm talking about not launch, right? I'm talking about a product that's already been selling, right? So if you're optimizing, let's say 2-3 months after it's been launched, right? This doesn't apply to like launch products. That's what I'm saying. So the way we do it is pretty much price point and margin, right? So let's say typically we would go anything that's below, I would say like $50, right? Where you have like a 20% margin. I would go 2 weeks, and then you measure like 8 to 10 clicks, somewhere there in that range, and then you could adjust the bids. Now the frequency of it at which you do that is it depends, right? You got to start like a couple times a week, gauge how it affects the account or the product line, and then you either increase that or decrease that, but no more than 3 times a week. So the higher the price point is, the longer your time frame would be, right? So
got it. So you want to give it more clicks, if I'm understanding correctly, based on a higher price point, because people are more likely to shop around. So anything under $50 is a little bit more of an impulse purchase. Exactly. Did I summarize that well? You don't want to cut it too soon. That's the thing, right? So if you have like $100 product, right, you don't want to cut it after 8 clicks. Typically, it's going to take more than that because conversion on a high price point product takes longer than that. So I would probably increase the time range to about a month, actually, and then cut it accordingly. So yeah, or make the bid changes. So how often do you look at campaigns? Personally, every day. Okay, got it. Let's say if you're Abdullah, and let's say you have other things, another business, another job, or whatever, and you're doing this on your own for your own campaign. Let's just say, how often would you recommend someone go into their campaigns if they're not a full-time PPC manager? I'm hardcore, Kevin. I mean, if I know you're hardcore, but I mean, those are maybe not as hardcore. Don't do anything. You don't have to do anything, but you should look at it every day. You should look at your KPIs for the past, not the specific day, right? You got to look at previous days, right? I do that every day. I would do it for my own products for sure, right? So it doesn't mean you're going to change anything. You just got to take a look at your KPIs, right? Are you tracking the right metrics here? Are you looking at your profits? You're looking at your sales. Make sure you're not losing impressions. Nothing is bleeding money too much. You gotta be on track with that stuff. It takes work, right? So I would at the least, actually, I would say every 3 days, right? But okay, I would prefer like every other day, okay, to be safe, right? Yeah. So got it. Okay. All right. So next up, Sammy asks, while launching a product in a less competitive niche, how many reviews should I get before starting the PPC? Which we kind of dabbled into earlier. So generally speaking, what do you recommend? Generally speaking, we go hard at the beginning. We sign up for Vine and we push PPC as hard as we can. Of course, you got to have a budget, but you gotta research your keywords and understand the market, right? Then you should allocate a budget for 30 days of PPC. We don't need reviews nowadays. You just gotta push. Vine is gonna give you those first 5-10 reviews, but yeah, we don't wait for reviews. I totally agree. I mean, there used to be kind of a thought process of like, oh, wait until you have a certain number of reviews, otherwise you're just wasting your money on PPC. Well, the other way is you're just wasting time, really, if you're not at least trying to get in front of people, because if you look on the front page of or first page, I should say, of a search engine results page, type in garlic press or whatever, generally the first 4 are sponsored positions. Then, you've got like top rated or, editorial or whatever. They've got a whole bunch of different categories. They keep adding 4 stars and above or whatever. And they keep adding all these things and adding all these things. And all these placements are sponsored. So there's fewer and fewer organic spots. So when you first start, they're not going to give you the, top of page 1 placement in most cases. You got to kind of pay to play.
Yep. 100%. And one thing to remember is you have a honeymoon period that you got to take advantage of, right? So the more you get rewarded for specific keywords, the quicker you rank for them. So there you go. If you can't get traffic, you're not going to rank, right? So PPC helps with the traffic that if you did your research correctly, then that traffic should convert at a certain rate, right? Even without reviews. Might be a lower rate, but it should convert.
Cool.
Oh, Sean. What's
Sean
up, Sean
Smith says, my man Bernard.
What's going on, Sean?
So
you got a question for me, Sean? Go ahead.
So it looks like Bernard just got a little shout out there. So if you have any questions for Bernard, give him a
Sean, my brother from another mother.
From another mother. All right. So Abdullah says, I optimize campaign as per search query performance. So I'm just assuming this person says they use search query performance. The thing about search query performance, and feel free to jump in here, Bernard, is that it's really more focused on holistically where you're getting the sales from keywords and whatnot. So it's not necessarily just from ads. So you'd want to use like search term report or I personally love the bulk sheet report. Even if you're not going to use it for optimizing, I would still make sure to keep a copy of it because it has so much data at your fingerprints. And now even has the search term report in it for whatever time period you're looking at. So I love that one. Any other thoughts?
How would he optimize campaigns using that report, though? I mean, you could probably find holes, right? You could find keywords that you're not targeting using that, right? But
could be.
Maybe you could like optimize conversion rate using it. But optimizing,
it's a great report, but I don't know that I would use it as your primary report for optimizing. Like maybe you say like, oh, okay, I'm, and this could be a controversial topic, but I'm ranking well for whatever keyword. Why not throw a little gas on the fire or keep my foot on the gas pedal and also make sure that I'm, I have maybe an exact match or something for that particular keyword so that way you continue to show relevancy to the algorithm.
Not sure what the question is, but yeah, I guess sure.
Yes. So, or maybe it was a clarifying statement for a question that we answered earlier. That's the hard part about StreamYard. Sometimes when you go back and you pull up someone's comment, you're like, oh, they probably meant something else. So, all right, folks, don't forget, if you have questions, make sure to add them in to the chat. We will do our best to get to as many of them as we can. But if we run out of time, we run out of time. And we have in pretty much all of our previous PPC AMAs. And so this ends up being kind of like if you've ever been in class or college, high school, whatever, and the teacher says, anybody have any questions? Nobody asks any questions. And then one person asks questions and everybody else got it. Oh, I'm going to raise my hand. I'm going to raise my hand. And they're like, okay, class is over. Not everybody got their question answered. But there was times when they're like, okay, you could have got your question in earlier. Now is the time where you could be saying at the end, I wish I got my question in. So get your question in now. So we'll do our best to give you a good answer. So, all right. So Enes, and I'm not even going to pretend to try to butcher the last name. I apologize, but Enes, however I say that. Do you have any knowledge about transparency program? What are you have any thoughts on transparency?
I did have a brand I work with that had transparency program, and they swear by it. But I mean, it gives you another layer of protection. But the specifics of it, I don't know. I mean, do you know, Kevin?
So basically, and I had looked into it for my own brand, is that it's another layer of basically it's kind of like locks down your ASIN that you have to have the transparency sticker. So the point behind it was that maybe like this is a Staples branded calculator. And so maybe Staples sells this and they don't want anyone else selling on their listing. And so theoretically, and this is just giving Amazon more data, that you could have your Amazon transparency sticker on your units that you're selling at Staples so that no one retail arbitrages buys your calculator and ships it into Amazon. Because if it doesn't have the right sticker, because when you create the shipment, you say, I am authorizing, units number, whatever through whatever. So each sticker is a unique identifier for that unit. It's not just the ASIN, but that unit. And so if somebody tries to send in that ASIN and it doesn't have your authorized unit numbers or whatever, they won't allow them to check it in. So there's that benefit, but sometimes it just adds another layer of complexity. And do you want to deal with?
Sounds like it helps with hijackers, right? I would say
it could potentially, but a lot of people that have looked into it have said it's a lot more work than it necessarily needs to be. But if you're having a lot of problems with hijackers, then maybe it's worth it. If you're not, I wouldn't just add it just for the sake of adding it. Like, I don't think you're going to have better PPC results because you have, you have the Amazon transparency. All right. So Kim K asks, Hi, Kim. Day parting reports indicate should reduce 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. and Sundays. Is there any way to do rule-based bidding using a negative percentage adjustments? I can only see positive bid adjustment rule option.
Yeah. I think, we use a tool for that, right? So I won't use anything. I mean, you could, like you said, you could increase, play around with the bids so you lower them. You could do that, but I would rather use a tool for that. I'm not sure what tool she's using, but there are plenty of tools out there that would help you with that. They're not that expensive. So I won't try adjusting bids on the other ones just for that.
So you're saying you recommend if you're going to do day parting, do it within some sort of API.
I would say, use a tool. It's easier. They give you all the. I'm hoping she pulled the reports and analyzed all the data, and then she came up with 1 a.m. I mean, that's typical, right? That time of day, typically people don't buy, right? So you could cut, shut down the PPC at that time, and then fire it up again on Monday morning or so.
Yeah. Right? And I would be curious too, like how much are you spending during that time period? Like, is it you're spending lots of money during that time period, or because at the end of the day, there's not a lot of people clicking anyway. It just could be the people that are clicking at 1 to 4 a.m., let's say Eastern time, or Pacific time, whatever the report says, are probably not going to be buyers, or less likely to be buyers, I should say. But there's also fewer people clicking because most people are asleep. So, how much is the juice worth the squeeze would be my question.
Right.
All right. Deepa asks, could you please share the strategy for the Scratch brand? The brand is related to beauty categories and how much time we can make profitable for these type of brands. So if I understand the question correctly, who knows? They could have been typing on mobile. I'm guilty of that, where I type on mobile and I realize, oh wait, I said the same word too many times. So basically, they're starting a brand from scratch, is what I'm assuming, and it's in the beauty category. So how do they launch it? And how do they become profitable? And how quickly?
Ooh, that's a tough thing, man. I mean, beauty is super competitive. So, well, you get profitable if you do understand the market. That's my answer to that. It's not timing. It's you got to pick the right product for the right. I mean, beauty is super competitive.
All right, so let's say they've picked the right product. Now,
if you pick the right product and then you price it correctly, you should be able to become profitable. I would say a minimum of 3 months, maybe 4. Could take a whole year. Could take a year. There's no time. So I don't think.
What would be like, how would you help them launch the campaigns? So like if they were your client,
beauty,
whatever
scares me. Tell the truth, beauty is a scary category for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. For them to be successful, they would have to be really, really good at product selection. So how would I help is you got to do your keyword research correctly, right? if you provide me with all the keywords you want to rank for, then yeah, we probably launch campaigns helping to rank for those keywords for sure.
Okay, so
But then again,
how
it
would
has
you
to
launch
be
the campaigns to rank for those keywords?
how.
Yes.
So
What would
what
that
we'll
look
do
like?
is, assuming you give me a list of, let's say, 50 keywords, right? So
Mhm.
basically, I would um, uh, structure them in a way you don't have the search volume. You don't want to have a keyword that has a huge search volume with a really low search volume keyword. So I would segment them that way, right? So
Mhm.
if you had like really, really competitive keywords or very high search volume stuff, have them separate, like single keyword campaign, right? And I would have like I would launch them, the other ones segmented, like I said, search volume wise.
Okay.
So you would have broad, phrase, and exact matches, and then product targeting, and yeah, an auto campaign helps for sure, like for keyword research. So yeah, you could launch with 4 or 5 campaigns. So just sponsored products for sure. You don't want to go
Gotcha.
sponsor brands at the beginning. There's no point for that. So you wanna try ranking for the least competitive keywords as quickly as possible, right? Because beauty,
Okay.
like I said, yeah, you gotta be careful what keywords, what product you launch on there. That's for sure. But
Okay.
if you're confident, then yeah, you do. I would do 3 manual campaigns. You do broad or phrase and exact. 3 meaning you don't want to add too many keywords in one as well, right? So you would limit them to about no more than 10 keywords a campaign, and then have the bigger search volume keywords on their own campaigns, right? Single keyword, and then combining all the rest in broad, phrase, and exact, and then have a product targeting campaign. You could also do a category targeting as well. If it's
Mm.
like a very specific niche that you
Mhm.
understand, you could do that as well. So like I would say like 5 or 6 campaigns would work, right?
Okay.
And then you gotta, yeah, do your math correctly, allocate the right budgeting for about, I would say, a month, so that you want to rank, you want to have enough money to rank.
Mhm.
You don't want to run out of money before ranking, right? So
Good
that's how we
point.
do it.
All right. So David says my phrase match campaign triggered a variety of search terms. From the search term report, my top performing keyword CPC cost about $3 per click. If I were to use those search terms into a new campaign, should I use the CPC from that search term report? The report is a 30-day look back. So if I were to use those search terms into a new campaign, should I use the CPC cost from my search term report? So basically, if I'm understanding this, they started off with, like I said, broader phrase match keyword. They're like,
Hmm.
oh, some of my search terms are working well. They want to promote it to be their own keywords.
Right.
So do they use the same CPC that they were getting, or would they increase that, decrease it? Like, how would you recommend that they start that initial bid?
The way I do it, the way we do it for the
Mhm.
agency is we use a weighted average, right? So basically,
Mm.
we weigh how many clicks, right? How many orders for sure based on how many clicks, right? So that has the weight. So you gotta, if you get like 1 click, 1 order, right? It should be weighted differently than you have 100 clicks and you have 2 orders, right? So you gotta weigh it in terms of how many clicks you get. So based on that, we calculate the bids based on that type of data, right? So we usually segment um, 3 or more orders in separate campaigns than 1 to 2 orders, because conversion rate is typically higher for orders more than 3, right?
Okay.
We do segment them that way, right? So to answer that question is, yeah, you got to use the data, right? You could um, you could do an average CPC if you don't, there's a formula for weighted averages you could find,
Mhm.
right? You could find that, or more simple thing would be, yeah, you could do the average CPC for, let's say, 30 days or so, and use that, add a
Mhm.
percentage to it. You could do it that way as well, right? So yeah, but we
So
we, we do it based
just
on.
to make sure I understand, your weighted average.
Mhm,
So you're looking at, so like let's say, it's phone case, and now they're going for black phone case for
mhm,
Samsung. So that was the search term that they saw was getting sales and they're
mhm.
promoting. So how do you weight that average?
It's based on clicks, right? Number
Okay.
of clicks. So the one with just one click and one impression should have less of a weight than the one that has a little bit more clicks, right? So there's a formula we
Got it.
use.
But it's already on the search term report where,
Yes.
or are you talking about looking between that same
No,
search term in multiple
there's a formula
campaigns?
we use on the spreadsheet, right? So you basically, there's a formula that determines which one should get more weight, right? It's weight. I mean, the weight of the clicks, right? So it's based on, it's not equal. That's what I'm saying. But you, like I said, if you don't want to get into that kind of detail, then yeah, you could use an average last 30 days and
Okay, got it.
it-
Got it. So it could depend on the time periods and things like that. Okay, so basically
yeah,
you're using an average. So he could use his CPC from the
you
last
could
30
use
days
average CPC, the average,
as
yeah,
his stuff.
average
Yeah,
CPC at
right.
the product level for sure. Make sure you segment the
So you wouldn't use it at the keyword at the search term level. You would be using it at the product level.
both. That's what I'm saying. If you don't want to get into the greedy details of weighted average stuff, which the way we do it, it takes a lot of math. You got to calculate that stuff, or you got to have automation for this.
It sounds like that engineering stuff.
Yeah, it's it's a little bit more complicated, right? At the end of the day, if you want something quick and simple, then yeah, just use the average CPC.
Got it. It took me a second to catch on there. Okay, I think I get where you're going. Yes.
But personally, I prefer the weighted average approach because it's more specific and more, it makes more sense technically, right? In terms of, a click is not a click if you only have one impression, right? So that's the point. So one click,
that's a good point. Yeah.
One click, one order, you have 100% conversion rate, right?
I see where you're getting at now. Okay, sorry. It took me a second. So basically, you might be like, oh, yeah, I had 2 clicks and 2 sales. But that's not good enough data to really know.
Yeah, exactly. It's not enough. So
you didn't have that many impressions. You just kind of lucked out.
Exactly. So the weight of it should come from how many clicks. Just a couple clicks is not enough. The more clicks you have is more proof that it is converting well, right?
Okay, so you have kind of a formula using your engineering stuff.
Well, it's actually something I learned in one of my masterminds. From yeah, you came up with a formula that does that. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, you don't want to do this manually every time though. You want to automate all that stuff. This is what we did.
Got it.
Yeah,
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
How should I advertise variations, meaning parent-child variations in PPC?
That's a big question. That is a very good question. So variations. So we've experimented with a lot of different ways of doing this. So there's a way where let's say you have some of the brands we manage have like dozens and dozens of variations. Some products have a lot of variations, color, size, all that stuff. So what I recommend here is if you have, you got to generate separate keyword lists. There's one that's more generic, right? Let's say iPhone 4, for example, iPhone 12, whatever, right? So those are like generic keywords, right? But the more specific stuff that are like color related or size related, then you would have a separate list of keywords, right? So what I would do is for the generic stuff, I would pick the structure I like using is one campaign, one ad group, and you pick the top, depending on how many variations you have, I would pick the top 3 top sellers or better, the one that really maintain the conversion rate, right? The one that really drive traffic. I will use those 2 to 3 or 4, whatever they are. Depends how many variations you have, right? So I would pick those and then use the variation, the generic keywords there, right? Separate campaign. Now you would use the variation specific campaigns where you got to research size, whatever comes up for that specific product line, right? Let's the black is a keyword, could be like, I don't know, iPhone Plus, whatever. There's a size or color one. So those you would have them in a separate campaign, and you would have multiple ad groups, right? So each ad group
this is controversial here.
Yeah. So each keyword would have all the variation specific keywords in there, right? For that specific product. It takes a lot of work though to do.
Yeah.
I think it's very efficient that way, right?
So
you
like
have
yellow, red, whatever. So if you have color variations,
if you have enough, right? Sometimes you get like one keyword that comes up. It's
right.
not worth doing it that way, right? But if you have like enough volume where you could like segment them and it gives you a good, you see a lot of different variation specific keywords. And yeah, I would segment them that way for sure. That works the best, I would
That
say.
was worth the cost of admission just right there. So basically, you're
Yeah.
saying have one campaign with your just maybe top three, and they're all kind of sharing the
Yes.
impressions and whatnot,
And the
and then
keywords.
you
Yeah.
have another campaign with ad groups where each ad group is maybe like the color variation. It's got the
Yes.
variation specific keywords like red shoe, blue shoe,
Yes.
size 12 shoe, whatever it is. So, okay, I hadn't heard that one before. That's a good one.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
After all this time,
really? No, that's
doing so many
it
interviews, I
makes
hadn't heard
sense,
that one.
right? It makes sense.
Yes.
Technically, I mean, strategically, it makes sense because you get all the right. You would know what converts for what. You expect the black to convert for the black one, right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily, but it should, right?
Uh-huh.
But
That's
that way
good.
you can understand how it works with the every click you get is attributed to that specific ASIN, right?
Okay.
Well, when
All
you
right.
add them in one ad group, you don't know which one is getting the attribution, right? It's kind of difficult to evaluate that way.
Yes. All right. So Kim K
That's why I use
asks,
the generic keywords for all those. That's it,
I like that. I like it. All right. So Kim K asks, instead of bid adjustments based on a schedule, what do you think of creating rule-based bidding guardrails for performance? Do you have a preference for ACOS, click-through rate, conversion rate?
That's a good question, Kim. I've done like I've tested that the rule-based bidding stuff. Again, results are inconsistent. Like I said, I see good stuff at the beginning and then it tanks after a while. Why? I don't know. The algorithm should be learning on what works, right? But
Right.
it's hard to tell what AI does, right? It's AI driven. But if you would want to experiment with this, I have actually a couple of posts I did on Facebook about this.
Okay.
So I like using ROAS. I think ROAS or ACOS would be one of them. If depending on the objective of the campaign, right? If it's a profit-driven campaign, not for ranking campaigns, obviously, right? If you're looking at a ranking campaign, then you would use ACOS. Like say I typically see what it's suggested, and I go above that. I mean below that actually to make sure. Actually above to make sure that you do get more traffic. So if it's recommending like 25% ACOS, I would go 30 just to make sure you get traffic to it. And then like I said, I would love to see what experiment you do. Because I've tested this out and like I said, it's very inconsistent in terms of results. So
yeah, I honestly, and I've been selling on Amazon for almost 9 years and running ads for over 8. I don't know I've ever used a rule. Like, anything that like I know this is probably controversial, but I hate bid up and down. I feel like when you start giving them too much control, then
that's the thing, the more freedom you give the algorithm, the more it could fluctuate a lot.
Right.
So that's why, that down only gives you the most control. Exactly. Right. Up and down, you get 100% difference in what the bids could be. Right. So
right. And supposedly that could be helpful, but results can vary, I think.
Kim, to go back to Kim's question, it's kind of a shame that it doesn't work better because it should understand. It should understand really what works best and then go from there. But I've tested it a few times and the same result. It starts off by doing really well and then it tanks. Why? I don't know. So
interesting. Yeah. All right. So if you can beat that, then email Bernard and let him know.
Let me know if you get it to work longer than 3 weeks and it does well after that.
All right. So Marvin asks, hello, how do I get access to the adverts from another seller account? Someone wants me to optimize their advertising. If he adds me as a secondary user, I have to give him my ID information. How do I do this as an agency? If we're talking about in Europe, there's no way around it that I'm aware of. And I assume this is in Europe because you're talking about having to provide information and using S and optimize as opposed to
So
Z and optimized.
so they have there's a problem with giving IDs, right? To I guess they want to. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah.
They
So
want
you could always potentially, if you have your own account, you could give access to your own account to this other login. I have this in my own, where I have my own seller account. I've got my own, because I use it for VAs, but it's
Yes.
my login.
Yes.
So you could give access to that user, and then in the process, you'll have to have the identity verified. But once you do that for that login, you don't have to do it again. So when you give it to another person, you know, they don't have to put in your or your not password, but your passport info or whatever.
Yeah.
So
one-time thing. Yeah.
Exactly. It's a one-time thing.
Yeah.
All right. So David asks, Kevin, Amazon has changed their coupon eligibility. Oh, that was a hot topic a few weeks ago. I've increased my price so that I can run coupons during the holidays, end up losing my buy box to some ASIN. I don't know how you'd lose your buy box. Oh, any advice on what's the best way to use both, able to run coupons and get back the buy box if I create a variation? Where the buy box? My suggestion would be play around with a few things. I've gotten coupons back in a lot of my ASINs I made it so that my list price, your price, and sale price were all the same. And it seemed to fix it on a lot of them. Or it fixed it once it got a sale. It seems to be the case. So I don't know if that helps. All right. So we may have one more PPC question here for Bernard. We've got a few in here. Sorry, folks. Bear with me. Oh, let's do this one. According to Perfume Market, which costs per click is competitive for perfume dupes in Germany? Oh, I'm not sure what the question is there. Sorry, folks. Oh, David, or no, let's do this. Yeah, let's do this one. So David is just probably confirming from a question we answered earlier. I moved my top performing keyword from a phrase match campaign into their own campaigns, long tail keywords like gold sneaker for women, which probably maybe just gold sneaker was the original one. So that may not necessarily be a question. Looks like we have a few statements, but we also have some really in-depth questions, but we are running out of time. So I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So I'll just do this. If folks want to learn more about maybe your special formulas that you've engineered over time, where should they go?
You could head over to www.ppcmaestro.com. So you could, my email address is at the bottom there. And then there's also a form you could apply for an audit if you want me to look at your account. So yeah, so ppcmaestro.com.
Yes, I will say this. I am pretty good at Excel and Sheets, but I cannot keep up with Bernard. And so he knows his stuff. So I would recommend, so go to ppcmaestro.com. Let me share my screen here real quick. So head on over to Bernard's website, click the little get your free audits.
Yep.
He tells us it's only going to take 20 seconds to fill out whatever he needs to fill out. And he and his team will reach back out to you with more info. So definitely head on over to PPC Maestro. And if you want more of Bernard, he's going to be joining us at the PPC Mastery Summit, May 14th through the 16th. And so more information will be coming on that here soon. But Bernard is an OG from the very first PPC Mastery Summit back in May of 2020. Hard to believe that was 4 years ago.
I know. Time flies, huh?
Time flies. How the world has changed since 2020.
was a crazy year for sure.
Yes, that was a banner year.
Yeah.
That was a banner year. Speaking of banners, check out that banner we got there at the bottom of the screen, and check out Bernard's website over at ppcmaestro.com. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Great questions, everyone. Sorry if we didn't get to your question, but join us on a future PPC AMA here on the My Amazon Guy channel. And with that, everyone have a great day.
Bye, guys. Thank you.